Folks, today we're going to be bow hunting in Alabama swampland. You know, early in the year we were doing a lot of bow hunting around the white oaks, and that's because they were dropping at that particular time. And that was in October. Our season came in on October 15th. Now it's November 28th, and the white oaks are already dropped. The deer have already cleaned them up. Now I'm changing my strategy. Now I'm looking for the water and the willow oaks, which drop a little bit later, and they are really on the ground, as I'll show you here in a minute. But I'm going to show you the reason why I put my tree stand in this particular place. Now, as I've mentioned before to you, when I bow hunt, I like to get my stand in what I call a funnel. And this is surrounding different bedding areas where it comes to a point which will give me a shot no further than 25 yards. Now, as you can see right here, the direction I just came in, there's a clear cut. It's a great bedding area back there with a little oak thicket right along the edge of the swamp right here. Now, if we move over here, you'll see when we cut across that little lane right there, we pick up the bamboo thicket, another good bedding area for the whitetails. And as we keep coming all the way around, you're going to see this is like a little hole in the middle of the swamp. There's another little oak thicket right here running up the edge of the swamp. Okay? So I put my stand right here at the point where all three thickets come together. Okay? Come on, let's show you what a water oak, or what they call a willow oak, looks like. All right, here's what I call a water or willow oak. These are the acorns right here. They're a little bit smaller than the white oak that we normally like to hunt. You can see right here, something's been eating on that. But that's what's called a water or willow oak, and these are predominant all over the country, especially in the swamplands here in the south. But one thing you want to pay attention to, no matter what part of the country you're from, is paying attention to the food sources and when the deer are eating the food sources. A lot of times you place your stands up early in the season, the deer are all in there, and you can't figure out why they're not there later in the season. Well, this is what you got to pay attention to. And when I'm hunting around the white oaks, when they're dropping a little bit earlier in the year, say in early October, once the deer take all the white oaks and clean them out, then I start coming looking for the other acorns that are dropping. And this, in my part of the country, is the water and the willow, and that's what they like. So make sure you pay attention to that, because your scouting is extremely important if you're going to be a successful bow hunter or rifle hunter or muzzle loader hunter, whatever type of deer hunter you are. You've got to pay attention to that and adjust to that. Okay, let's look at what a water or willow oak looks like. It's real kind of grayish, slick bark. And look at the leaves. And here again, depending on what part of the country you're from, you know, ask your local wildlife biologist, you know, what particular acorns, trees that you have and that are dropping, and what deer like to feed on. Now, I've showed you basically our strategy this morning. I like to put my stand in the funnel. You see all the little thickets that surround it. These deer can come in here and feed. If there's any danger, they can make 2 leaps, 3 leaps, and they're back in safety, back in their bedding area.
After using an odor eliminator and cover scent, Jackie and cameraman Pat Gregory hunt in the swamp the next morning for the elusive Alabama whitetail. A yearling feeds near the tree where Jackie is sitting. Then a doe feeds right under their stands, totally unaware of the presence of the hunters. A small rack buck feeds about 50 yards from Jackie on the other side of some trees and brush.
seen a lot of deer this morning. The wind's been tough on us, but when you're hunting in the swamp, you got so many different directions that they can come from. It just happened early that these deer came downwind from us, and they smelled us. But these other deer, we had the wind right on them. That one little buck, he just stayed out of range. Wouldn't present the shot. Wait a minute, wait. Here comes a deer right here.
A rack buck makes his way toward Jackie, feeding on the acorns and moving toward the point of the funnel, which will present a shot of no more than 20 yards, just as Jackie had planned.
That's a good shot.
Jackie approaches the buck from behind and touches it with his broadhead to confirm the good, clean shot.
All right. Well, I tell you what, old fella, you gave me a lot of weight. Tell you what, it was a lot of fun this morning. We'd seen one other little buck. We saw a lot of does. In fact, I was really kind of calling the morning over with when I was just looking straight back behind me, and here he come, and it was about 10 o'clock. And he came in. He was feeding on the little water oaks. And one time I drew back, and there was one little limb. And you know, when we were putting our stand up, and we were cleaning all our limbs out and trying to make all our shots possible, I said, doggone it, I guarantee you that limb right there will cause us some problems. We just couldn't get up and cut it. And doggone if he didn't walk right there where that limb was. And I drew back on him. Then he walked right behind a little tree, and I couldn't get a shot. So I had to let it back down. He started walking away from me, and I thought it was really over with for the morning, but he circled back, you know, where the acorns were, and he gave me a good broadside shot at about 20 yards, and made a good shot on him. And this is just the end result. But I tell you what, it's just the anxiety of waiting and waiting and waiting for bow hunting. So completely different with rifle hunting, and try to let them get in within 20 yards. And you know, we were set up this morning, and you know, with the northwest wind, and all the deer seemed to be downwind from us. They were all blowing at us, and I just didn't think there was any way with the deer blowing at us this morning we'd see any deer. But these deer came from the opposite direction, and gave me a good shot. And this will be one buck I'll remember.
This week, Jackie Bushman hunts the Alabama whitetail his favorite way, scrape hunting. Let's join Jackie as he shows why he's chosen to hunt in this location.
This right here is a scrape. It's on the edge of a field, which is like a nighttime feeding source. You can see where he's been nibbling the branches. You can also see which direction he is scraping. He's coming from this direction because the leaves are brushed back this way. If you pay attention to these things, these are just a lot of the little clues that will give you some ideas of where the deer are, where they're coming from. But I call this a secondary scrape. I wouldn't place my tree stand here. Now that's not saying that this deer's not going to come here in light, but I am betting, in all the luck that I've had scrape hunting, which is one of my favorite ways to hunt, I've had a lot more luck hunting in the thicker areas because it makes sense. Secondary scrapes are, say, along fields, along open roads, things like that. What I call a primary or breeding scrape is going to be a scrape that's closer to the bedding areas, thicker places where these deer can actually come check these scrapes in, you know, the middle of the day and also feel secure. Man, it's thick in here. Found a couple of scrapes back there. Here's another one right here. How about that? All right, and as you can tell, I'm really in the thicket now. Now we have our hardwood strip. This is some thick little hardwoods right here. This is all a sage kind of clear cut with pines, and over about 100 yards in front of me is another hardwood strip. And I found about 2 scrapes on up there about 100, 200 yards apart, and here's another one right here. And he has just put this down in the last few days, so they're just starting to scrape. As the rut intensifies, and these does start coming to heat, I'll see a lot more traffic. And what I mean by that, I'll see a lot more tracks and droppings and stuff in it. Right now, he's just putting down the scrapes. All right, now, this trail right here is going to cut through to go to this other hardwood thicket. What I want to do now is take this trail, follow it, and see if we can find some more primary scrapes on this other edge. Usually what they do is they scrape this in a semicircle pattern, and I'm going to find my perfect tree, what I call it, to place my tree stand in. Now, a lot of times when you scrape hunt, and I'll bring this up now, is a lot of times the bucks won't come just directly to the scrape. A lot of times they use what's called a scent checking trail, which could be, say, 50 or 100 yards away from the scrape. And if you'll look for these are little dim trails, like just for example right here. This deer could check this scrape, say from 100 yards, the wind was blowing this way, okay? So the beautiful thing to do is try to find the dim trails going in between these 2 thickets in this particular situation, and try to have your stand downwind of the scent checking trail. But you have to pay attention to your wind direction before you come in and get set up. But let's take this trail right here. I'm going to show you the whole setup, and then we're going to take you on some hunting.
Jackie continues to find scrapes around the clear cut on the edge of the hardwoods.
All right, and here I've got one more scrape right here. I found one more in between the last one. And this right here, about another 50 yards, is really an opening. And we've got a green field on the side of that. So this is really the last scrape that I need to see, because I'm going to move back and put my tree stand up from this one, so I'm going to be kind of in between all the scrapes. But as I mentioned, these deer had not put these scrapes down a couple of days ago, so they're just getting started. So when I see that, that's when I really start doing my scouting. You know, I get out from the food sources, you know, where you might be hunting the acorns and things like that. This is what I enjoy doing. I enjoy hunting the scrapes, because you know there's a buck or multiple bucks. You know, a lot of people think that this is just one buck, you know, making this scrape, or one buck using this scrape. That's not true. A lot of different bucks will use these scrape lines, because what's happening is the does are coming to these scrapes, and they're leaving their scent in there saying they're ready to breed. They'll walk off. The bucks are coming to see if that doe has come in, and you'll see a lot of times when you're hunting, you'll see multiple bucks coming to the scrapes and then trailing that hot doe off. This is what I call the perfect stand for this particular situation right here. Now, I've got my stand set up where I will not walk through the bedding area. I can come through a green field, through some open fields, and get to this stand without making much noise. That's very important also, because really you've wasted your time scouting if you're going to walk through what you think is the bedding area, okay? So keep that in mind. Now we're going to take you on some successful hunts, and you're going to see how our scouting paid off here.
A couple of weeks later, Jackie hunts the area. The morning of the hunt is partly cloudy, with a mild to moderate wind from the east-northeast. A doe appears under Jackie, very close to the closest scrape to the tree stand. Then a spike buck appears, following the scent of the doe. Jackie notices movement on one of the trails crossing the clear cut. A great Alabama 8-pointer is making his way toward the tree stand on the scent-checking trail that Jackie found while scouting. Jackie waits patiently as the buck rubs a tree on the other side of some brush. Finally, the buck begins to move down the trail again. This movement should take the buck to an opening that'll give Jackie a clear shot.
Oh, what a great buck. I'm still shaking. Look at this whitetail right here, Alabama whitetail. That is a great 8-pointer. Man, oh man, oh man. I tell you what, folks, the hours that we have put in this year, they have all paid off, and this is just evidence of it. But I had to wait till the rut started. This particular buck started putting his scrapes down about a couple of weeks ago, and he was doing them in a semicircle pattern. He had some scrapes up here on a pine thicket, and we had some sage right here in little pines. He had another thicket which he had under a cedar tree, and they all went around a semicircle. And I placed my stand right in between all the major scrapes right there. I had to hunt this with a east-northeast wind. I couldn't hunt it with a west wind because he would have smelled me, and it just worked perfect this morning about 9 o'clock. But I tell you, I grunted a few times because these deer, are definitely rutting, and we've been hearing a lot of bucks grunting. So I grunted a few times, and all of a sudden I looked back, and right under the cedar tree where he had one of his scrapes, here he comes. And I could see the tips of his horns, and he started walking through the pines, and I couldn't get a shot. He just was not giving me an open shot, and I'd never want to take a bad shot if I don't have it. But then he got behind some thicket, and then he went and rubbed on a tree, and that seemed like it took him 30 minutes. But once he cleared that, I made a good shot, and this is then the result of a lot of hard work and practice. But if you put your time in and do your scouting, make sure you get the wind right, and learn the difference between primary and secondary scrapes, you can have a lot of luck like this.